So does anybody else remember Columbia House? 12 albums for a penny, then a year's allowance each after that. 12 album minimum? Oh boy. There was also the RCA Club, which became BMG. At some point, I ended up getting one free cassette a year for life. Life of the format, that is. They stopped that in the early 90s. So I was getting some freebies for a while. I remember from Columbia House, I got the Stones' Through the Past Darkly with the funny shaped cover, and Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, Deja Vu, and a really good album I got to look back into. I haven't heard in a while. Sly and the Family Stones, Stan. Just remember them coming in a flat cardboard case to my house. So what was my first album? It was Meet the Beatles. I guess I got that on my 10th birthday. First one I ever bought with my own money was the Kinks' Greatest Hits, and it was right as Sunny Afternoon, the 45, was climbing the charts in August of '66. So that was a great time for the Kinks, comeback time for them. The last album I bought new anyway, on vinyl, was probably Kate Bush's Hounds of Love in '85. And the same day, I also went to a drugstore that sold 45s and bought Running Up That Hill, the 45 from that album, because the B-side, Under the Ivy, wasn't on the album. And I love me some B-sides. There was a place across the street from where I worked as a picture framer for years and years called Recycled Records, and another one down the street called Vinyl Revolution, which had free piles. And boy, did I take advantage of those. But they also carried a lot of out-of-print items like $1 Billion Babies, which is what the name of the band became after Alice Cooper left Alice Cooper. And they had an album called Battle Axe. And a lot of oldies, and if you wanted to try something, even if they weren't in the free pile, they were cheap. So I still love me some vinyl. I had all but maybe my 10 best stolen from a storage unit about 20 years ago. I had my very best ones at home being recorded on one of those gizmos that records vinyl to CD or cassette. So they survived, and that's about all I've got left. And I didn't lose much. I had copied them all onto cassette anyway. So I got the music. It's just the liner notes that I love, and I'll get into that in part 2. But I lost my original magazine by heart, which was recalled, and then they put out an official version, which stunk. The original was 10 times better. Bootlegs like Led Zeppelin. The Buckingham Nicks album, that was the big loss. That was only in print in vinyl. It was never on cassette or CD until just last year, in 2025, that is. Warner Brothers Sampler Records, double albums, usually the Big Ball Songbook and one called Zapped. And the real another treasure, the Blue Yardbirds album, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page on Epic. It was a 1970 double album, and it was fantastic. So in part 2, I'll get to more. So you got my first, last, and in between. All right, last time we got into my first album, my last album, my first album with my own money, and a lot of other things. This time we're talking about other things about albums. Buckingham Nicks, great album, only on vinyl. I don't think it was ever released on cassette. Polydor, 1973. It just came back into print in CD form in 2025. Masterpiece, well worth having. There's an album out of print. I can't even find it on Spotify, let alone in hard copy. Shades of Deep Purple. I think it was their second album. Terrific. It had a instrumental song as its final track on side 2, just like the Burn album did a couple generations of the band later. My dad had some albums around the house, and he was a country guy, but I was all about this Chet Atkins he had. I guess it was from about 1959 or 60. And Roger Miller's Greatest Hits. I just couldn't believe it. I like funny lyrics, and there they were. They also, on the other hand, had soundtracks to Dr. Zhivago and West Side Story. Those were interesting. Picture sleeves, too. They were gatefolds that opened up. I had an aunt, or a great aunt, I guess, who I only visited once, but she had a Beatles interview album, and it had a Lennon Harrison song called Cry for a Shadow on it, and all kinds of pictures and images. And I never saw it again for 60 years, and now it's turning up on eBay things like that. I was obsessed with the Buffalo Springfield Again album, the liner notes. Read them infinitely. There were some odd-shaped albums in the 70s. There was Through the Past Darkly by the Rolling Stones, funny die-cut shape. Low Spark and Shootout at the Fantasy Factory by Traffic, 2 albums in a row that had funny shapes. I guess octagonal or something, I don't know. But now they just print a picture of the shape. They don't cut it out, if you can find it at all. And the CD, of course, doesn't do that, even though it could. There's a singer, Nico. She was in Velvet Underground for a while, but I liked her solo stuff. Very quirky, very weird, right up my alley. She had one album. It had swirly, multicolored vinyl. It was called the Marble Index. It was kind of beige. I've seen black copies of it since then with black vinyl. I think Todd Rundgren or the Nas, his early band, had a colorful vinyl album. People are doing that more and more now. It's kind of a collector thing, I guess. Anyway, just to sum up the other parts, I started with Columbia House Record Club, where you would get records in the mail and cardboard. My first album, Meet the Beatles. My last album, new, was Kate Bush's Hounds of Love. First album, My Own Money, was The Kinks' Greatest Hits. Still a masterpiece. Had tons stolen from storage. And then I got into new things that are worth looking up if you can find the originals, like Buckingham Nicks. So anyway, I'm a vinyl guy. Love the liner notes. If you are too, go find a used record store like I do and get you some more.